Bill had asked me to marry him. There was silence on the phone. They were on extensions in their house. Nothing.
At 78, Sally Struthers finally breaks her silence, and what she shares changes how this story has been told. A quiet Hollywood home became the center of a shocking tragedy after Rob Reiner and his wife were found dead, setting off a legal battle that is still unfolding. Whispers quickly turned into headlines, especially after investigators began examining the role of Rob's son, Nick, in a case filled with unanswered questions. Now, in a rare and emotional conversation with Tom Cruise, Sally opens up about what she knows, what she witnessed, and what Hollywood never wanted discussed. This isn't rumor or speculation. It's a first-hand account that pulls back the curtain on loyalty, loss, and a truth that took decades to surface. Cruise and Reiner shared a bond that stretched back decades. A Few Good Men didn't just define a moment in Hollywood. It forged a lasting friendship between two men who respected each other's instincts. Tom was known for his intensity, his sharp awareness, and his ability to read a room before anyone else sensed trouble. And according to multiple people close to the investigation, speaking quietly and without names, it was Tom who sensed the danger first. Last November, what was supposed to be a routine visit to discuss a possible project reportedly turned into something far darker. Tom arrived at the Reiner home and allegedly walked into chaos, not involving Rob, but Nick. Voices were raised. Michelle was being berated. Nick was demanding access to a trust that had been restricted because of his ongoing struggles. The situation, we're told, was volatile enough that Tom physically placed himself between mother and son. Later, he confided to someone close that the look in Nick's eyes unsettled him deeply. Empty, unpredictable, frightening. That day, Tom reportedly pulled Rob aside and spoke with uncharacteristic urgency. He warned him plainly, this house was no longer safe. He told Rob that either Nick needed to leave or Rob did. It's chilling to imagine. One of the most powerful figures in Hollywood, someone who has seen excess, conflict, and ego at its worst, urging a friend to escape his own home. But Rob did what so many parents do when love blinds logic. He defended his son. He insisted Nick was ill, not evil. He believed one more chance could still save him. Sally later confirmed that pattern, breaking down as she admitted Rob's greatest strength, his capacity to forgive, may also have been his undoing. She spoke of the guilt that haunts her now, of not pressing harder when she sensed something was wrong. Rob had begun withdrawing, canceling plans, fading from the lives of friends who once filled his world. Even a small reunion dinner with surviving castmates was declined. When Sally drove by his home, days before the tragedy, the blinds were drawn in broad daylight. It didn't look like a home anymore. It looked like a barricade. She texted him that she was outside. Hours passed before he replied, "Not a good time. He's home." Just 2 words, now heavy with fear and meaning. What stunned many most was the financial truth Sally revealed. We assume wealth shields families like this, but addiction devours money without mercy. Nick's demands had reportedly spiraled beyond control. Rob, quietly and desperately, had begun selling assets, not to fund new creative dreams, but to settle debts no parent should ever have to face. Gambling losses, dangerous people, threats he hoped money could erase. He believed he was protecting his son from the world, never realizing the danger was already under his own roof. And now, one incident Sally described has become central to what authorities are examining, a warning sign that, tragically, came too late. About 6 months earlier, during what was meant to be a simple family gathering, there was an incident that was quietly dismissed as an accident. The story given was that Rob had fallen down the stairs. He ended up with a broken wrist and deep bruising across his face. When Sally visited him in the hospital, something didn't sit right. She later admitted that when she truly looked at his injuries, they didn't resemble a fall at all. The marks, she said, looked deliberate, shaped like fingers. She asked him gently but directly if Nick had done this. Rob didn't answer. He turned his face away and began to cry. That silence said everything. They never spoke of it again. There is a particular kind of quiet that surrounds victims like this, especially parents harmed by their own children. It's layered with shame, confusion, and unbearable love. How do you explain to the world that the child you once protected now needs to be hidden from? Tom Cruise's role adds another heartbreaking dimension. Those close to him say he was shattered because he had tried to intervene in a very real way. He reportedly offered to personally fund an elite high-security rehabilitation program overseas, one designed for the most extreme cases. He told Rob he would take care of it, lift the burden, handle everything. But Nick refused to go, and Rob refused to force him. Later, Tom allegedly confided that he felt like he had been watching a disaster unfold in slow motion, powerless to stop it. Now, as early defenses begin to form around claims of mental collapse, Sally remains firm. She insists this was not a sudden break from reality. She described a pattern, calculated, manipulative, and cruel. Nick, she said, knew exactly when to appear remorseful, when to become the son Rob remembered, just long enough to regain trust. Then the facade would fade. What followed wasn't chaos. It was control, and it left scars no one wanted to name. Rob and Michelle were not simply living under strain. They were trapped inside a private battlefield, and it raises a painful question. Why did it take this long for the truth to surface? Why is it only now, through Sally's voice and fragments leaked from Tom Cruise's circle, that the picture is becoming clear? The answer lies in Hollywood's unspoken code. The industry shields its own, and it fears anything that fractures a carefully maintained image. No one wanted to confront the idea that the warm, principled Rob Reiner was enduring something so dark behind closed doors. Sally no longer has patience for that silence. At 77, grieving her brother and stripped of any loyalty to industry optics, she wants accountability. She openly condemned the people who enabled Nick, the friends who supplied him, the physicians who kept writing prescriptions, and a legal system that repeatedly looked the other way because of a famous surname. Her anger wasn't abstract. It was precise. She also shifted the focus to Michelle, whose suffering had largely gone unseen. Michelle wasn't just a witness. She was the shield, the mediator, the one constantly stepping between fury and fallout. Sally revealed that Michelle had once confessed that she began sleeping with her bedroom door locked, in her own home, out of fear of her own child. She told Sally that when she heard footsteps in the hallway at night, her heart would seize. They weren't living as parents anymore. They were captives, trapped by love and terror in equal measure. What happened next, according to a timeline Sally pieced together with investigators, wasn't a sudden eruption. It was a slow, relentless breakdown. Nick had been unraveling for days. Neighbors later admitted to hearing shouting on and off for nearly 48 hours. But no one intervened. In places like Brentwood, you don't call the police on famous neighbors. You turn up the volume. You look away. That collective politeness, this fear of disruption, gave the situation room to grow worse. Leaked information from Cruz's side suggests that Rob did reach out for help that night, but not in the way people might expect. He didn't dial emergency services. He contacted a private security company, hoping to quietly de-escalate. The call was logged at 9:15 p.m. The team arrived half an hour later. By then, everything was already over. Cruz is reportedly enraged by the delay, but those close to Rob believe he likely softened the danger when he called. He didn't say his son was going to kill them. He said his son was struggling. Even in his final moments, Rob was protecting Nick, not himself. That is what makes the end so devastating. The report showed Michelle had defensive wounds. Rob had almost none. He didn't fight back. He endured it. The man who spent his life speaking out against injustice chose, in the end, to absorb violence rather than return it to his child. Sally said he died doing what he always did, trying to be a father. And that image of a man sacrificing his own survival out of love is one that will linger long after the headlines fade. Now the story moves into an even darker chapter, the legal storm that's quietly gathering strength. With Nick in custody, the fight ahead won't only be about charges and courtrooms, but about control of the story itself, and eventually, the estate. Sally has made a public appeal, asking people not to let the defense rewrite history. Her fear is clear and justified, that Rob and Michelle will be painted as tyrants, that blame will be shifted onto the very people who lost their lives. We've seen this pattern before in high-profile cases involving parents and children. The victims are scrutinized. Their flaws are magnified. Sally is trying to stop that before it begins. She was blunt in her assessment. Rob wasn't cruel or controlling, she said. If anything, he was too gentle, too forgiving. That, in her eyes, was his only failing. And looming over all of this is the possibility that Tom Cruise may testify if the case goes to trial. The image alone is staggering. One of Hollywood's most powerful figures taking the stand against the son of his closest friend. Those close to the situation say Tom is prepared to do it if it means preventing Nick from ever walking free. He wants the jury to hear about the warnings, the intervention, the chances that were offered and rejected. He wants it understood that this tragedy didn't come from confusion or a sudden break, but from choices made in clarity. And then there's the most unsettling truth of all, the one no one wants to face. Nick didn't arrive at this moment out of nowhere. We all watched him grow up in public, smiling on red carpets, framed as a fortunate kid born into privilege. But Sally says there were signs early on that something was wrong. She recalled an incident years ago at a rap party where a teenage Nick was found alone, calmly destroying property in a back room. Not raging, not panicked, just methodical. When Rob confronted him, there were no tears, no apologies, only a smile. Sally urged Rob even then to get help. And he did. The best doctors, the best care money could buy. But some things can't be fixed with resources alone. You can't purchase empathy. Since Sally spoke out, the industry response has been swift and telling. Old photos are disappearing. Associations are quietly erased. The distancing has begun. But Sally remains unmoved, standing in the open and naming what others avoid. She wants the world to understand that Rob Reiner wasn't simply a famous man who died. He was a victim of domestic violence. A label we rarely allow men, especially powerful men, to wear. We assume strength is protection. That love, tragically, is the lie. It immobilizes. And in the end, it may have cost him everything. The funeral, we're told, will be deeply private, fitting for a family whose suffering was hidden for far too long. Tom Cruise is reportedly overseeing the final arrangements, making sure security is absolutely tight enough that no one connected to Nick can come anywhere near the service. Sally will speak. She said she plans to read one final letter to Rob. She hasn't shared what's in it, only that it's the conversation they never finished at that lunch 3 weeks before everything collapsed. There's a hard lesson buried beneath all of this, one that feels especially cruel given who Rob was. We grow up on stories, many shaped by his own films, that promise love is enough. Patience, compassion, and forgiveness will always lead to redemption. But real life doesn't follow a screenplay. Sometimes love cannot rescue someone who refuses to be saved, and sometimes that struggle drags everyone else under with it. By breaking her silence, Sally shattered the carefully polished image of the perfect Hollywood family. And in doing so, she gave Rob something more important than myth: his humanity. In his final days, he wasn't a cultural icon or a powerful director. He was a frightened, grieving father trying to protect his child, even as that instinct placed him in danger. As the legal process unfolds, and as investigators prepare to present what they found inside that Brentwood house, the warnings echo louder with each passing day. The warning Tom gave. The warning Sally tried to raise. The warning signs Rob lived with daily. This wasn't one sudden wrong turn. It was a series of missed exits. At any point, authorities could have been called. Boundaries could have been enforced. Doors could have been locked for good. But love delayed every decision until there were no decisions left to make. Now there is only quiet. The quiet of a home that once rang with laughter and debate. The quiet was left behind by a storyteller who still had so many chapters to write, and the steady, trembling voice of Sally, reminding us that this ending was not inevitable. The case continues to develop. Court filings are expected soon, and there are whispers, unconfirmed but unsettling, of audio recordings captured by smart home devices during those final moments. If such evidence exists and is played in court, it could erase any remaining doubt about what truly happened. Until then, all that remains is reflection, grief, and the painful knowledge that love, no matter how deep, does not always save the people we love most.